Hi, I'm Jerry Rasco, and I've been working as a professional comic book artist since 2004. I've worked for many independent publishers, such as MC Studios, Beta 3, Arcana, and Counterpoint Comics. The videos I make here on YouTube are my way of sharing my experiences, tips, tricks, and my passion for comics. Whether you're a creator, a longtime fan, or someone new to comics, I hope you enjoy these videos. That said, let's get started.
Okay, so this video is being pre-recorded as opposed to being live, and the reason for that is I'm at a point where I'm going to start filling in the black areas of the background, which is going to take me quite a while, and it's not super exciting. So I'm going to do some editing, and I will speed that up and can give you a little, my thoughts as a voiceover as I'm working through that. And then I'll get back into adding the shading and the rendering and stuff on the figure. But one thing I do want to tell you before I get going, of course, first, thank you for checking out the video. Thanks to everybody who likes and subscribes. That means the world to me. I really appreciate it. Keep wanting to make more content for you as much as I can. The pen that I'm going to be using is this, it's this Japanese brush pen. I got it from jetpens.com, and I don't know what it's called because it's here we go. Zig Cartoonist. This is the refill for it. So it's just the handle is full of ink, and you just keep the top part, which is the brush, and you squeeze ink into it. I get these from jetpens.com, and again, I highly recommend JetPens. It's not a sponsor or anything like that, but for me, I found it's a great way to see different kinds of pens and materials that I wouldn't have had knowledge about or access to before. So sometimes you have a couple extra bucks and you're in the market for some new art supplies, I recommend it. Go out and find something new that maybe you haven't seen before and give it a shot. So that said, I'm going to go to the brush pen. Again, going to speed it up for you as we get through this process, and then we'll go from there.
So here we go. So this is obviously, I guess I mentioned, a sped up video because filling in all these areas in black are not super exciting. I did also want to let you know, so apologies for my voice in the videos and for this voiceover. I am a couple weeks into recovering from COVID, and so my voice has been I've been a little stuffy and a little croaky, so my apologies on that. So here I am just filling in the largest areas with the brush pen, and that's really what I like this brush pen for. So I have two of them actually, and I'll end up switching to the other one in this video at some point. But one of them, I kind of use, and the bristles are a synthetic, and they over time they lose their the fine point. It becomes a much more broad, sort of messy brush. So that's what I'm using it for here, to fill in the large areas. And as I mentioned, with this particular brush pen, really good as far as like keeping it clean and neat, because all the ink is in the handle. I don't have to dip into anything. I just squeeze the handle and I get a little more ink. And also the ink that it comes with is very opaque. It's very dark. So sometimes with markers, I've used various, Faber-Castell Pitt pens and other kind of felt tip markers. A lot of times when you do that and you want to have a solid black area like this, it'll be streaky, and so you have to go over it a number of times to get the black to be really opaque. With this particular pen or brush, you don't. The ink is extremely dark, which I really like. So now I'm going in. This is the finer tip one. So this one's it's the exact same thing. It's just newer, and so the tip is of the brush is finer, and so I can get closer to the edges and the areas without worrying about blacking out stuff that I didn't want to be black to begin with. So I can kind of do that. And yeah, just kind of going over the whole thing. So this is one of those things where you know, sometimes you need to do it. If you're going to digitally color this, of course, you wouldn't bother to put in all this ink. You would just fill in those areas black. Oh, so I was just showing another pen. So here, I've let it dried. I let the ink dry for a few minutes, and then I went to this next pen, which is I believe it's a zebra pen, and it has a flexible. They call it a brush tip as well. It's not truly a brush, but it has a flexible tip on it, and so you can cover large areas with it as well. But then I had a little more control than I would over just the straight brush, and so that's where I'm coming in and tightening up all these black areas here. So what I was saying is with digital, you wouldn't bother to do all this. You would simply fill it in, you know, with your keyboard. It's a couple selections and some controls, and boom, you're done. So that's how you do that. But on the flip side of that, if for some reason somebody took a shining to this and wanted to purchase this piece, if you do it digitally, and I had filled in all the black areas and the one, I really wouldn't have much of a drawing. It wouldn't be a completed piece. It would just be a line drawing, and it would really lack, you know, in my mind, the vision of what I was going for with the whole piece. So that's why I would definitely want to complete this out. And as well with any of the commissions that I do, that's the same process. So this is another one of those zebra pens. So I have several of them, and I do use several different ones throughout this video of different the firmness. Basically, the tip is either softer, and so it flexes, and you can color in more areas, or as I get closer and tighter small areas, I want a firmer pen, so that I'm getting into the areas without having to worry about inking over stuff that I didn't want to ink over. This is the kind of thing that as you're doing it, whether it's a page you've got, if you're doing a comic with a lot of, say, outer space, or just commissions, things like that, this is a good time to have something that you can have going on in the background to entertain you while you're just sort of filling in areas, because there's not a lot of thinking to do here. So I have, you see me glance up now and then, I have a television up above my table, and I will often have something on TV that I can just sort of peek at or listen to. For me, sports, I'm a big sports fan. Sports are a great thing because you can sort of listen without having to necessarily watch every second of it, and you can still keep up with what's happening. Movies that you've seen a lot as well. Some people like music. Having music playing while you're doing some work like this is good as well. Of course, the problem is you can't do that while you are recording, or if you want to post it to social media later, because they'll get struck. So unfortunately, usually when I'm working like this and recording the video, I'll end up having to cut out the sound, the actual recorded sound, and do a voiceover like this. So if you're thinking about doing any of your own art videos, it's something to take into consideration. If you usually do have some sort of media playing in the background, just be aware that that's a no-go if you want to then post your videos to social media. They don't care for that one bit. Let's see. So we're getting closer every little bit. Also, I'll let you know this. So this was several hours of work, and I've sped it up as fast as I can in my editing software. So this is at 1,000%. The large areas go fast. But once you get into the details and things of that nature, it can be time consuming. Also, because of the video, I've got the piece and I want to keep it in the camera, so I keep seeing my head poking into the camera area. I have to lean forward to get to the top of the page, or lean across to get to one side or the other. If I wasn't recording this, I'd just move the image around. I'd move the piece around on my table, and I would turn it to get the right angle for my hand, and or the tools, stuff like that. Unfortunately, you can't really do that when you want to keep it in as best you can in frame. So unfortunately, that's why you see my head poking into view. Again, if you're thinking about doing some video yourself, maybe there's better solutions. So I have the camera mounted up above my drawing table. For me, that's about the best way I've found to do it. Just because you can see the image. If I go from one side to the other, the perspective and things will kind of warp it. So now almost all the black areas in the background are done, and I'm starting to come in and do some rendering on the figure and on the cables and stuff. And then I realized, oh yeah, I forgot this this area over here. So this, whatever this display is, I needed to fill that in as well. The other thing you see, and this happens in a lot of videos, whether primarily when I'm inking, but also when I am drawing sometimes too. There's my head, and there we go. One of the things that happens is I'll move around. I'll work a little on this area, and then I'll come over and work a little on that area, and back and forth. With ink, this is important because if you don't, you run the risk of smudging. The ink, even with pens, whether it's the microns, or if whatever brand of pen you use, the ink will be slightly wet. And the more you use like brushes and things like that, it will definitely be wet. So you don't want to necessarily just ink consistently in one area, because you really do run that risk of smudging the ink all over, which is no good. So that's why you'll see me kind of bounce around from one area to the other. That's one reason. The other reason is that you don't become then focused so much on one part that you forget the image as a whole. So as you move around, you start to go, okay, I see, here's this part, I missed a line over here, let me get back to this. And you're continuing to take the image in as a whole, as opposed to just one little section at a time. So here I'm trying to fill this in to create that, that sort of, it looks like a early CGI wireform of the character while he's going through this sort of diagnostic procedure. So I'm filling in all these little squares that I've drawn out on the grid, and a few more shadows and reflections on the silver part. So we're getting pretty close here. We're pretty close. So in just a minute, we're going to be getting back to real time and wrapping things up. So here we go.
Okay, so just about wrapping up here. So we're going to get to the end of the speed part of the video. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and used my variety of brush pens to go ahead and create the shadows that I'm looking for. And now I'm going to come back in with the small micron for some of the detail areas. where I may want to add, again, some small shading, rendering, like I've done here. Stuff where I didn't want necessarily a big solid black. So like down on the thumb area there. The bottom of the fingers will be shaded, so we'll do some of that. So just a few final touches, and we'll be ready to wrap this one up and move on to the next project, which is always the goal, right? Never stopping, just moving from one project to the next. And yeah. So as I've mentioned a few times, if you've watched any of the other videos, what I'm going to be doing next here is getting back to sequential pages. So working on my new project, The Just. We've got a sequential page coming up where we'll have some figures, we'll have a little bit of action, and then I'll go through the process with everybody on excuse me, how I lay out the page, how I put it all together, some of the things that I take into consideration as I do that. So doing a little extra here to create hopefully what looks like a little bit of a shine, a reflective surface on these metal parts here. But again, you don't want to go, so I've added a shadow. Anything else I want to do fairly light, because again, it's supposed to be a sort of a chrome, real shiny metal kind of a look. Same with the tube. So I've done a shadow, which would be on the middle or the sort of underside. And now I'm going to add this line, which represents a highlight on the top. So it sort of separates where the light would hit, and then the shaded area. Come through on these. So yeah, and then I'm sure there'll be things as I'm sort of finding here. There's little spots and areas that I might have missed where I go, oh wait, I should darken up that line, like there. Which is no big deal. You can always come back in and just touch those up. There's always, seems like there's always something that gets missed, guaranteed. It's just the nature of the beast as you're looking at the whole image, or sometimes what happens for me is you get focused on one area. So I'm working here and I forget, oh, I missed that other line over there, and I've got to go back in and fix it. So that happens. It's all part of the process. So again, I appreciate everybody who's checked this out. Thank you so much for being part and indulging in me as I revisited this this image. And so before we go, I'll show you again one more time the original piece in comparison, and hopefully you'll be able to see kind of where I went in a different path and the things I did differently. And I'll point some of those things out, but yeah, it's like I said, it's been a fun experiment to go in and really be critical of yourself as an artist, and that it's something that I do recommend. If you have a chance to do to go back and redraw old stuff. Can be really educational. It's a way for you to as an artist to explore what you've done and sort of, as I mentioned, take a critical eye and look at it again and go, well, maybe, maybe I could do this different. Again, just sort of teaching yourself. That's one of the goals, right? Is to always be improving, always growing as an artist. And you can't do that if you don't take a look at what you've done. So, one more thing I'm going to do here is I've got a white gel pen, and I think there's not much. Go in and yeah, do like a little bit of white here. So a few little white spots. For the most part, it's not. There's not too much that I would add because I did leave white as sort of the highlight on the metal and the chrome and stuff. So there really isn't too much to add to sort of shine it up. It'd just be white on white. So yeah, so I think I'm pretty good there, and I'll use the pen. So I will add my. Oh, it's below the camera. You can't see. I'll add my little signature logo. I'll do it in white. (2022). Okay, so last peek at the original. So here's where we were. Zoom out a little here. Get this. Here we go. Yeah, so here's the original from 1997. Colored pencil and ink. Like I said, I used Sharpies on the black, so there's some fading going on, and I had a lot more going on. It's a bigger piece of paper, but I had more tubes and more connections and stuff, and the gauntlets and things like that. The anatomy of the figure was definitely pretty wonky, and here we have the new piece, and I'll fix the black where the tape was, but to kind of give you an idea, here it is. So a little kind of side by side. So yeah, there we go. Again, a fun experiment, a fun exercise. Thank you all so much for checking it out. We continue, as I mentioned, to do videos showing you progress on the Just. We've got some new color work to show, and we'll be getting ready to launch our crowdfund campaign. We're still working through the details there, so very excited to share that with you. Thank you all so much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for the next video. Thanks.